absolutely. He's done a great job. He's done the job he was designated. And you just gotta think about which champion else Loftition is gonna pick out in the next game. Which champion he's gonna pick to make life for K5 miserable. Because if there's one guy on the roster of Invul Lotus that has consistently performed on the highest level, it is Loftition. And there's probably going to be a lot more bans in the next draft against the mid laner of Lotus. And we're going to see how the team is going to deal with that.
Yeah, no, definitely. But if you're taking some of the bans and putting them onto Loftition, then you're leaving champions open for some of the other players of Lotus. Looking at that first game, giving anyone extra champions from their pool is going to be very, very scary. I know you highlighted Slice there, potentially like taking a backseat a little bit, but he has been one of the massive, massive carries for the Lotus roster across the season to this point. So I think it's only fair that he gets to ride in the backpack for the occasional game. Loftition and Lunar really taking that one over, not without help from their top laner. Ronaldo on the Jax having a very solid performance. Well, yeah, I don't know. Like, if you are Karolinerna, what do you change for the second game?
I think you do not give Leonard Raven. That has backfired in later team fights as soon as he was able to cash in that one big fight. 1,730 gold kill. That was basically the point where bot lane was going out of control for K5 and they didn't have an answer to it. And you also need a different philosophy for how to do Loftition. The Sandra pick was good, was a great idea, but it hasn't been followed up with the necessary agency that you need to keep an Akali down. Most of the ultimates of Ratu have not landed on Loftition, land as a tool to initiate the team fights, which is good as a concept, but hasn't paid off in the later stages because the backline of K5 has just been vulnerable all the time to the Jax, to the Akali.
Definitely. It's one of those where you see the pick, it's very, very solid in theory, and unfortunately this time it's just not quite worked out in practice. But the innovation from K5 is there. Maybe they can find something in the second game. They have been given side selection for game 2, and Karolinerna Black will be taking the red side. So we are going to see a switch of sides in this second game. Invul Lotus kicking things off with a Bel'Veth ban. Talia also hitting the ban list.
I'm not surprised that Talia's out of the equation once again. I'm also expecting Azir to be out once more. What I'm also expecting is Draven. There it is.
Yep. Very quickly taken off of the board. Not wanting any more Lunar shenanigans on that pick.
I'm expecting the Azir ban to as well.
And the Akali being taken away. Yuumi is open.
Hold on, it's a Diana pick for Invul Lotus.
He is open, Neil. And Invul have not first picked it.
Yuumi is probably going to go into the hands of K5 right here. But there's one thing you have to think about. If there is a team comp can hurt a Yuumi pretty badly, it is a wombo combo team comp, which is possible with a Diana Yasuo.
The Yone picked up Karolina.
Great pick. Can lane against most top laners, can lane against Yasuo, so it's a pretty safe pick for the side of K5 so far. Of course, needs a lot of resources. It's a safe early game. And if there is something really volatile, it also is a lane bully.
Arthur.
Like the Darius, this Yone run into trouble. Karthus is not something I would have expected.
Where does that go?
Carry. Definitely jungle. I
Yeah?
do not expect it to go anywhere else.
Interesting.
I mean, it is possible to have it in the bot lane, but as we have potential silver pick right here, it is locked now. It's probably not going to pay off, because silver Karthus is just going to be a residence sleeper lane.
So if we imagine that the Karthus is matching up into the Diana in the jungle, how does that matchup go? How do Karthus and Diana fare into?
Basically, Diana can do absolutely nothing about Karthus in the early game until she hits level 6. At that point, there's a lot of volatility to expect from the Diana, the Moonfall, and she has the chance to one-shot Karthus basically at will. On the other hand, Karthus has, of course, has the chance to just maneuver around the Diana, just to be on the other side of the map at any time, and the vision control of K5 is gonna be tested at this point to Karthus save. Although, I gotta say, I'm kinda confused about the Mordekaiser pick, because Karthus usually wants to be the only source of AP damage on his team.
I was just... Yumi, though, picked up to pair with Sivir. Scaling bot. Enable the Diana in the late game as well, with the Yumi on her back, carrying the power of the moon through the team fights and potentially through the team of Karolinerna.
So far, I would have expected some mid-lane bans here.
Maud, I'm seeing in chat, Maud is a Yumi counter. So I'm assuming Mordekaiser ults whoever the Yumi is on top of, and the Yumi gets instantly disattached, or unattached.
Well, yes, but then you have 4v4, which Yumi's gonna influence once again.
Yeah.
So the concept of it is nice.
I mean, if the Mordekaiser finds the Yumi, and is able to take the Yumi to the Death Realm.
Yeah, the point is usually you use the Mordekaiser to throw Yumi off whoever she's on, and then create a window which you can engage the Yumi. It just depends on whether K5 are able to find that window. What is a lot more, a lot more ingenious in that way is the Sona pick, because Yumi doesn't have a strong lane. Sona gets to scale for free, and late game Sona is big threat, has a lot of heals, has a lot of utility to facilitate her own carries, especially with a Yone. That is something to give a proper thought.
We see the Azir picked up for Loftician. Jax locked again for Ronaldo, so running it back, wanting the Grandmaster in the top lane. And if this Trundle gets locked, that's an AD carry Karthus.
That's an AD carry Karthus, yep. I didn't really expect it, but in the end, we're creating a Resident Sleeper bot lane right here, and the volatile top side instead. Mordekaiser has the better matchup into the Jax, and Azir, on the other hand, has tools to bully out a Yone out of mid lane. So it's going to be interesting to see how these lanes play out, and who Slice and Citron are going to support with their resources. Bot lane, you just leave them on their island, which is basically a thing you're not used to, because bot lane is usually the focus of attention, thanks to Drake's being a lot stronger now. But
Get in. Defiant remake campsite.
Yeah, basically these bot lanes just call for being left alone, being left to scale, and Daka with the Karthus, the Requiem, has the chance to influence the top side regardless. Magic Pants picking the Sona is just going to say thank you for picking Yumi and giving him a chance to just get free scaling, get teamfight buffs left and right, and help make the late game a lot easier. If the Sona gets to live for long, if Magic Pants gets to do his thing, teamfights are gonna be a struggle for in the Lotus.
Yeah, definitely. Which of the two junglers? Obviously, we say the bot lane's going to look kind of like a Resident Sleeper lane. if someone wants to start something down in this bot lane, which team do you think is more likely to try and influence?
Probably K5. Karthus has really strong snowball potential, while Sivir is literally just there to be the reliable carry who just farms, scales up, and tears apart the enemy team at 4 items. So there's not really any incentive to gank bot lane of Lotus, but a lot more incentive for K5 to gank its dead. Especially also since K5 should have the better teamfight setup, the better gank setup, because they're engaged with Soda's Crescendo is a lot more instantaneous than Final Chapter combined with the On the Hunt of Sivir and Yumi.
Yeah, definitely. And it'll be interesting to see how the teams navigate these lanes. Mid lane, not a matchup we've really talked about in this game, but Azir into Yone, Loftition into Rotu. Who have you got favored in the mid lane matchup?
Let's just put it like I always would. Azir has the range, has the bully potential. Yone has a weak lane. Rotu just needs to get you 2 items. Guessing he's going to play with them into the Wit's End, but I wouldn't be surprised if he skips the Wit's End. It's all about surviving the lane. It's all about Citron getting him through a lane and not letting Slice and Loftition make plays the Yone even further than matchup already allows.
And you touch on the Azir having the range in that matchup. Yone can give himself a deceptive amount of range in these mid lane matchups, using that Soul Unbound, dashing forward, getting out with full combo, and then snapping back to reality for the extra little pop.
That is true. On the other hand, though, Loftition can of course just dash out to safety whenever it feels like it with his E, and Rotu also needs to time his fight sealed later quite well, and still has the disadvantage because Loftition, the Emperor's Divide, can just throw the Yone out at will whenever he's not unstoppable, which is really easy to find those windows because Yone is quite straightforward in how he wants to engage. Of course, he has a lot of range, and the mobile champions that don't have these self-defense tools will always have a hard time against the Yone, but Azir just throws them around as he wants from the level 6 onwards, and until he reaches that point, he just dashes out with a soldier and his E.
Definitely. Chat, as we did in game 1, let us know how you think this second game is going to go. Are Invul Lotus going to round out the lower bracket final with a 2-0, or are Karolinerna going to strike back and send us to game 3? Get your votes in the chat now. But again, we touched on the innovation from Karolinerna in game 1. With the Lissandra pick into the Akali. Karthus ADC. I mean, I know it's been a pick for a while, but we talk about innovation. I feel like we have to touch on this.
Definitely so. Karthus hasn't been seen on the bot lane for a while now. He has played this season in the NLC already at the hands of Unforgiven, and it just tells you the pick is viable. It certainly is a pocket pick of Daka as well. It is not something you usually see. The only thing it causes in combination with the Mordekaiser and the Sona is a slight lack of physical damage in the later stages of the game, which I'm going to be curious about whether Rotu can make up for that with a Yone. Of course, Yone has a lot of physical damage to his disposal, a lot of single target damage, but later team fights, his range is quite low, and he will always have to go into melee range to maximize his DPS, which isn't necessarily something that you want to have into Jax and Diana, especially with them having a Yumi on top of them.
And then when you think about all of the Sivir boomerangs that are bouncing around in the team fights as well. But yeah, like you touch on, I think Invul Lotus might find Force of Nature is their friend this game.
Definitely so. The question is who's going to build it. And looking at later itemization for Slice and Ronaldo here.
Yep, I definitely think that is plausible.
Loftition, Loner, and Marcusa, of course, going to ignore it because it's just not value these carry champions. But it is something that Ronaldo and Slice should think about in the later stages of the game. I do not think there's any incentive to rush it.
Indeed. But ladies and gentlemen, we are back in the loading screen. Game 2, Invul Lotus versus Karolinerna Black. It is the potential final game of the lower bracket final. Can Invul Lotus close things out? We are minutes away from finding... Let's do this. You want to sync up timers, by the way, Neil? Or are you all good?
I'm on live, once again.
Like 22, I think that's live. Pretty sure I'm on live.
Shit.
We'll go with it. If we run into any issues, we run into any issues. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Standard 5-point start from both teams this time. Nothing from Karolinerna to try and get any of that early vision. Lunar and Marcus are positioning forward a little bit aggressively, but nothing crazy so far.
I mean, the early game of K5 has been a lot stronger than the previous game. Now they have the Trundle, who is not the biggest threat on level 1. They have the Yone, who doesn't want to fight on he just doesn't want to fight on level 1, except for 7 Cheese against other weak laners. Mordekaiser is probably too easy to guide on the level 1 as well. And
is going to get spotted walking into the river here, and Rotiu going to look for a potential trade. That Sand Soldier does come down, and Loftition has the first strike, but is going to be able to claim some gold, and those Sand Soldiers really starting to bite.
There's the early cheese I mentioned. Rotiu now has the chance to bird Loftition down. That chance is a little stronger. Loftition anticipates that and uses a potion right away. It's really important for Loftition to stay healthy in this lane, because Rotiu on the Yone will have a surprising amount of burst damage, which is not something that you want to do.
Loftition really just poking away with that first strike, trying to generate as much extra gold for himself as possible, dodges away on the Tornado, and with the early level 2, will continue to dictate his will unto Rotiu in this lane. Both junglers starting on the bot side, so again, mirroring each other's paths through the jungle, although Citron, moving down towards this bot side river, could potentially look for an early gank hit onto the mid lane. Loftition under threat.
And Loftition is out pretty quickly, might still eat a pillar
though.
though.
He's wise to it, drops the ward on top of the Trundle. And Citron throwing down the frozen domain, gonna just move away.
There is a river ward for Invul Lotus in the bot side that has probably spotted out Citron, which has helped Loftition anticipate this early gank, and it just shows how much he can do with vision control. Really well played from the bot side of Invul Lotus. Really well done from Loftition.
Lunar and Marcusa laying the foundations, enabling their mid laner to keep himself safe, to keep himself alive, and to give him the best foundation possible to deal with this Yone. Early CS leads all trending in the favor of Invul Lotus to get things kicked off, and the poke war also currently being won, but I think if you look at the two team comps, that is to be expected. And Invul Lotus just playing to their comps slightly stronger early game at the moment.
It's also really important of Ronaldo here to keep top lane prio intact. Citron was looking for a potential invade onto Slice, which would have hurt Slice a lot. Ronaldo pushing this lane, retreating from the Mordekaiser in the top lane, leaves K5 wondering where the Jax is, and a 1v2 is not something that Citron wants to take at this point of time.
Definitely not. Starduster, you feel like, going to be enjoying this matchup a little bit better than he enjoyed the previous one, though. When he gets that Mordekaiser passive popped, pretty free trading for him.
I mean, he gets a lot more early game damage out from this Mordekaiser. Does a lot more damage. It just happens while he's fighting, and something helps him into the Jax. But it's out of question that Ronaldo with the Jax will scale a lot better into the late game. Will be a bigger sidling threat. Although I tend to believe that Stardust has his cards set a lot better for this late game than for the previous one, and is probably also able to just get Ronaldo out of the side lane and get a potential 1v1 kill in case that Ronaldo misplays, which is a freedom that freedom for Ronaldo that has been there in the previous game, but not in this one.
We see the teleport coming through from Rotu into the mid lane. Starduster electing not to burn his own teleport. But you just see how much this Azir is causing problems. Rotu really seeming to struggle in the early stages of the lane matchup, although he does have the slight CS lead.
Rotu, of course, has the advantage that he still has more range, more mobility than a Yasuo does, which helps Yone still stay healthy in these lanes, stay on par in CS. Of course, also has the Doran shield, which helps him in sustain. I'm kind of surprised he didn't go for the fleet footwork as well. He's apparently confident that this lethal tempo is paying off a lot more in the later team fights than do it lane.
Yeah, I imagine so. The little bit of extra attack range the lethal tempo can give once fully stacked, potentially going to prove very, very valuable, but right now he is just feeling the pain of Loftician's first strike. The Sand Soldiers being marshaled around the lane to get Rotu back.
Of course, you have the disadvantage for Loftician that the first strike has been nerfed quite substantially. 1% less damage also means he's generating a lot less gold. So far, he has a gold bonus of 123 in this lane, which is
not bad.
Yeah, a potion and a control ward.
Yeah, not
it's
bad.
Gonna stack up in the later stages, of course, and it's gonna amplify his burst. But it definitely gives him a slight edge in the lane as well. And Rotu is basically behind those 20 gold.
Yeah, we see Lunar and Marcusa pushing in the bot lane. Citron spotted on his blue buff respawn. And it's been a fairly placid, fairly quiet early game.
That is exactly Invul Lotus want though, because their top and bot lanes scale incredibly well, scale incredibly reliable.
I mean, the Azir doesn't scale half bad either.
Yeah, neither does the Yone, so these two are probably quite even.
Lunar and Marcusa looking for some potential shenanigans around this dragon, stepping forward and getting caught by the knockup. Wall of Pain gonna come down, and here comes a little bit of a massive moonfall into the Shurima shuffle, catches 5, but the fate's sealed, going to seal Lunar's fate and his first blood over to the Karthus. This could be potentially disastrous for Invul Lotus. Loftician finds one before he's taken down, but it's 4-for-1 for Karolinerna in the bot lane. River Hextech Drake picked up as well.
There's a lot of sitting gold onto Loftician that just backfires. Rotu has a lot of utility, has a lot of bonus damage out of his kit, which helps him in his team fight a lot. Loftician, the Emperor's Divide, has done some work but not enough, and Lunar is just down on damage right now compared to Daka, who gets a lot of isolated Qs, lay wastes, which tend to have a lot of value in these team fights. So Daka getting out the maximum, getting out a lot of his first strike as well, and Lunar and Uza just cannot match that right now. It's absolutely impossible for the Sivir to deal the same amount of damage that Daka is dealing right now, just because he's playing Karthus.
Now, so is that Invul Lotus being a little bit over-aggressive there on the called fight? Or is that a lot down to just Karolinerna playing the fight better? I think you can probably make arguments both. But like you mentioned, lots of standing gold on Loftician. Probably not wise to take that fight. But Karolinerna capitalizing on the mistake, netting themselves a 1,500 gold lead, and Lunar now under fire from Daka. Claims a second turret plate on the bot lane.
First of all, I gotta correct myself because there has been absolutely no value through the first strike for Daka because he has been hit before and he didn't use the 0.25 second time window to deal damage himself to activate the first strike. So he had no amplified damage in this team fight.
Yep. Dreamer Shuffle going to push Rotu out. Ronaldo now diving in, but the Fate Sealed going to carry the Yone away to safety. Slice now looking on the bot lane, but I can't imagine Invul Lotus are wanting to dive this with the Crescendo available.
I don't think so either. Yeah, basically what has happened in this team fight was
Lunar.
Slice has found a really good engage with the Moonfall, but the lack of follow-up damage has broken the neck of the Invul Lotus players. Later in... It shows how the later stages of the game can go if Invul Lotus manage to scale up, and it's also a pretty big threat that's just... yeah, already showing its ugly face in this.
Here comes the Requiem.
Game.
Just for the first strike money. That one. Just for
Time to catch in.
I saw the channel. I saw the channel come through, and I started panicking. Like, oh my god, who's low? Why have we not been shown a fight? But no, just got the strike money.
Let me check real quick how much cash he got out of that. A grand total of 65 gold.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, an extra 65 gold. No one's going to complain about that.
You'll take an extra potion. Rotu diving forward onto Loftition. Not really going to catch too much damage, though, onto the Azir. Gets the knock-up before the snapback. And relatively even trading in the mid lane. Gold lead staying at a stable 1,500. I believe the largest lead for Karolinerna at any point during these two games so far. Leandri's Anguish picked up by Daka, so that Karthus going to start hurting a lot more. As well as the Divine Sunderer picked up for Citron, who is looking for the Azir in the mid lane. Diving forward now, both members of Karolinerna, but Slice in the area, looking for the Moonfall, going to find it onto Citron, who's dragged under the turret. The Shurima Shuffle going to push him under. The shutdown comes through, but it's Rotu who's claiming himself a double kill. Turret not going to be able to finish off the Yone as Magic Pants appears with the heal at the last moment.
I think Slice has done everything he can, so did Loftition. They are forcing Citron under the turret, but Citron has a Divine Sunderer to his disposal, deals a lot of damage, heals even massively through the entire fight, and just does everything within his power. Of course, he cannot get out without the flash. He dies there, and Rotu would have died as well. It would have been just a perfect execution from Slice and Loftition there in a disadvantageous situation in that 2v2. But Rotu, in the end, gets saved by Magic Pants, who gets goes into mid lane with an absolute 500 IQ roam right there, and saves his mid laner, saves the day for K5, builds up another advantage. Really smart play from the support of K5, and that might help Rotu in the mid lane a lot, especially since he doesn't have to give up his shutdown.
Yeah, and off the back of that play, the gold lead extending up to just shy of 2,000. Dragon number 2 going to be claimed by Karolinerna as well, and we are treated to an Ocean Reef in this second game. I think it's worth touching on, though, as Magic Pants is roaming, Invul Lotus able to shear 3 plates from this bot lane tower. Speaking of plates, the Rift Herald just dropped in the mid lane, and Rotu going to be dove on a little bit. Herald is going to crash another couple of plates for K5. But a couple of plates, and that will be that for now in the mid.
Yeah, K5 at this point are just trying to get as much gold as possible into Rotu, who's the biggest threat on the entire roster right now. Daka, of course, also not too shy of a lot of possibilities to do anything. Futures market coming in clutch is Leandri's purchase as well. Has had another recall now, used the futures market again, has the magic pin boost now, and will hurt a lot. The next few fights will be really difficult for Invul Lotus, especially since both the carries on the side of A5 are really fed and really, really comfortable in the money department. Have a big bank account at their disposal.
No, this one is all about the scaling.
Yeah, Lotus and Luna will have to take some time to catch up.
Definitely. But with the third dragon coming up in just under 3.5 minutes, not going to feel too great to give over such a potential early soul point to the side of Karolinerna. So you would think that Invul Lotus are at least going to be considering fighting that dragon.
I guess they will, giving their opponents a really early soul point would absolutely be devastating and would harm their progress in this game, their chances to scale. So far, there's no Ocean Drake to the disposal of K5, which is a big advantage because the more sustain you get, the more annoying your team comp is gonna get. That is true for both sides equally, but especially since there are no Drakes to Invul Lotus' disposal right now, this can go a lot more volatile for Invul Lotus because there's a maximum of 2 Drakes that... 2 Ocean Drakes that they can still pick up on the side of K5.
Yep, Shurima shuffling Rotu back under the tower. It's not really going to find a lot. Daka in danger though. The support has roamed and the Karthus is going to be wiped from the map. Requiem going to come through, but Slice should be able to walk away scot-free. On the hunt going to be popped here as well by Lunar as a pause comes through for some Rotu internet connection issue.
Again, apparently there's some bigger issue with the internet. As a German citizen, I'm well aware of that possibility. Have shitty internet. But yeah, Daka basically left alone on the bot lane. Rotu is in combat, cannot react in time to get to aid his bot laner, and it's just a free dive. Nice opportunity presented for Invul Lotus, and perfectly executed upon it.
Yeah, definitely. Very nicely. Very, very nicely executed. And when we get back into game in just a moment, I imagine the R check has come through from K5 already.
Indeed, yeah. And there is a possibility that Magic Pants with Flash Crescendo has a window to engage on.
Yeah, and we are going to see that now as the dive forward is going to come through. Lunar playing on the edge here, but the snapback from Rotu not going to find any damage, and you would not imagine that there will be further chase. Although the Rift Herald in the mid lane, Loftition going to lose his tower. Can Ronaldo answer back in the top side?
Well,
oh, Citron's found the pincer on Slice. Rotu and Magic Pants going in. The Moonfall not available for Slice. Okay, we didn't quite get replay bugged. Rotu gonna fall though. Slice picking up that shutdown. Lunar and Marcusa trying to survive. The final chapter comes through and the root lands onto the Trundle. Marcusa going to pick up 1. Can he pick up 2? The auto attack lands onto Magic Pants, but it's not quite enough. Red buff on the Yuumi ticking away, and the flash forward from Loftition diving in with the slide and glide, going to pick that one up, and Invul Lotus striking back in the bot lane. What is that? 3 for extended, 4 for 2. I think if you include the Karthus, it's an extended 4 for 2, right?
Basically, yeah. Marcusa surviving is such an important thing to happen. Loftition uses that advantage and gets another kill onto Magic Pants. Has to invest the flash, which is of course not optimal. But he has the stopwatch to keep himself safe for the next 5 minutes, so it shouldn't be too bad. Especially considering that Ronaldo didn't get to drop the top lane turret of the side of K5.
Yeah, instead Stardust drops the Invul Lotus top lane tower.
So far...
Oh, the teleport. Daka being deep flank here from Ronaldo, and Daka could be in a lot of danger. Stuns coming through from the counter-strike. Slice in the area, but Ronaldo should be able to finish that one off on his own. And Daka taken down. No Requiem available. And 5 seconds before the Dragon Spawn. Perfect pick for Invul Lotus.
Yeah, nothing else to say, but the re-engage might happen right now. Magic Pants still has the crescendo.
Loftition slide and glide over the wall. Lana on a flank here. flanking Sivir. Not something I ever thought I'd see, but the On the Hunt's going to be thrown down just as a zoning tool more than anything by the looks of it, as K5 looking for a potential avenue back in, but the Sand Soldiers positioned by Loftition. The Flash Moonfall, beautiful in from Slice, finds Magic Pants in an instant. The Requiem comes through and it's not going to find anyone, but it's a 2-for-2 so far on the fight, 3-for-2, and it's Loftition as the only Invul Lotus member remaining, trying to kite away, trying to keep himself in safety, chunking away at the Trundle, chipping away at the Mordekaiser, but Starduster on this Mordekaiser is massive.
It's such a good engage from the side of Invul Lotus, but it backfires so hard because they don't get Starduster and Citron burst down. It is just not possible. They are too tanky, and Citron also deals way too much damage, has way too much sustain through the Divine Sunder, and even some resistances through the Wit's End and the Plated Steel Caps. The damage from Invul Lotus is just not high enough to deal with those frontliners yet. And I'm also starting to question Loftison's choice of the Luden's Tempest rather than the Anguish, because that would have helped. That would have certainly helped with getting through the front line. Still would have dealt some good amounts of damage to the bot lane of K5.
Definitely. Definitely something to look at, but he's made his bed. Now all he can do is lie in it. Hoping for success with the Luden's Tempest. Azir, Loftition will continue to try and impose his will on this game. Not having a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. 5-2-0 on the Azir. One of the big carries as of present on this Invul Lotus lineup. As we see Ronaldo trading onto Rotiu. Gonna find a very, very strong trade here. Knows the Yone has to snap back. But could we see Leap Strike forward? But no, the Death Realm comes through from Starduster to save his mid laner. Ronaldo going to try in vain to heal himself up.
And one big issue that K5 are facing right now is that Rotiu is not a strong side laner. This is also down to his build, because he's going for a really standard build of Shield Blow into Infinity Edge. Of course he has the 100% crit now, but he's lacking the dueling power from a Wit's End, from a Blade of the Rune King. And he's kind of lucky that Starduster is there to save the day, to save him from Ronaldo. Because Ronaldo alone completely dunks on him whenever he pleases.
Yeah, Ronaldo definitely having the better of that match. So, the game has gone. Objective bounties going to come through for Lotus. That on its own, hammering home the lead that Karolinerna Black have as present in this game. Citron looking to dive onto Loftition. The Emperor's Divide gonna come through, pushes the Trundle away, but Trundle's got terrain of his own, baby. He's gonna chase you down, and the stopwatch may come through, but it looks to be too little too late. Lunar's on the hunt, and there's a teleport from Ronaldo, but I don't think it's gonna be enough to secure any kills.
That's a big shutdown onto Rotiu. Of course, he only gets 450 gold out of that, but it's still important.
Baron started up by Karolinerna.
That's an interesting choice. Can Slice do anything about it? They are lacking Loftition.
It doesn't look like Invul are going to contest this. It looks like they're just going to let this one go.
Yeah, and that's a 7k gold disadvantage for Invul Lotus. This game so far is backfiring on them.
Curse of the blue side continues, I guess. K5 with a completely clear path at this mid lane in a tower. Inhibitor turret will be defended. Facing down a Baron buff and a potential soul in a minute and a half. It's not looking great.
Definitely not. And it's just going to be increasingly more difficult to stop the sieges from the side of K5. Because right now they have the potential to simply dive you. Citron is extremely tanky, Starduster is extremely tanky, especially with the Demonic Embrace and Zhonya's Hourglass. He is finished now. On the other hand, Lunar still down on items, only has his Phantom Dancer completed now. We'll have to wait for Lord Dominic's Regards and a to deal the massive amount of damage that are expected from a Sivir. Until that, he's gonna take a long time is gonna have to defend a lot of sieges, and I'm not even sure if he has those items completed when the next Baron spawns.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a rocky road from Invul Lotus. Come back into this game. But with the Azir, with the Sivir, they have got the tool to clear out these waves. As you can see from all of the ricochet damage coming through from Lunar there, definitely not the worst champion for clearing out minions.
It's all about clearing minions for now. The later stages of the game.
Ocean Soul going to go over to Karolinerna here. The only way I see this even being considered to be testing is sending Slice in on a suicide mission.
Yeah, there's no other way. And Marcusa should detach for now.
Optician finds a little bit of poke onto Starduster. And Dragon going to get pulled away out the pit. Slice is going to look for this. Optician and Lunar in the area as well, but Slice goes over, instantly taken into the death realm. Oh, the boomerang blade from Lunar. So close, Slice flashes over, but Starduster follows and slams him into the ground with a mace. No need for the death realm when you are just dead. And Loftician and Marcusa now facing heavy pressure in the bot lane.
Yeah, really good reaction from Stardust right here. Pulls Slice into the death realm immediately. Mordekaiser pick so far has a lot of value, and that is value that Ronaldo or the rest of Invul Lotus just can't match right now. They're trying to snowball that lead even further and looking to potentially get a bot lane inhibitor, maybe end here.
They are going to be successful in at least getting the inhibitor. Pushing for the end, I don't think they're quite going to be able to. Baron buff has worn off, so they are without those extra tanky minions. Stardust, though, getting engaged on, thrown back into the team. The move pool's going to come down. Zonya's hourglass is popped, but no one else from K5 can get to him. The shutdown goes over to Lunar. And that is definitely who you want the shutdown going on to. Ronaldo looking for this with Marcusa. The final chapter comes down, and it's a massive amount of CC onto all of the K5 members. The Fate Sealed comes through on to Lunar, though, and the Sivir taken out. Trundle finding everything, and here comes the Requiem. It is the death song of Invul Lotus. Loftician tries to turn things around onto Magic Pants, but is not going to be successful. What looked to be an incredible game-turning fight has been flipped on its head, and Karolinerna Black going to even this series up at 1-1 and take us to the final game. Pending some heroics from Slice, finds Magic Pants but can't quite find the kill, does not have damage to take down the Sona, and Karolinerna going to close out the second game.
Yeah, in that bot lane fight, Invul Lotus have just overstepped their welcome quite significantly. Getting that shutdown onto Starduster is nice. Getting it into the pockets of Lunar is even better, but losing the team fight just because you're taking an engage against a team that can just beat you up with their wallets wasn't exactly the call that you needed here. And yeah, it backfired. K5 just too rich, and now we're going to match point. Maybe it was just the last call. Maybe it was just to get all the bad mental out of your systems and to go fresh into game 3, especially since it would have been extremely hard to come back from the game in the first place. Anyway, no matter how the engage went.
Wallet diff is just large game 2 Lotus. But that does set us up very interestingly for this third game. And I know we've spoken about it before. Red side seems to be where it's at the moment. This weekend in NLC playoffs and NLC relegations, red side has been our side. Invul Lotus go into this final game side. What are they going to be? Are they going to put themselves on red? Are they going? What are we going to see in the draw?
I'm pretty sure they're going back to right side, but one thing has to be said. This last game, the draft hasn't really made any sense from the get-go. You would consider that the counter picks of K5 were just stronger, but top lane didn't have the counter pick and won regardless. Mid lane didn't have the counter pick and somehow just had a unit that went unpunished. And bot lane, where support has been counterpicked, just like the jungle, if I remember correctly. Those two haven't. I mean, of course, the jungle of K5 Citron has taken over the game quite well, but that is
Citron with a
something
monstrous game too.
that is something to be expected when you have someone as confident on Trundle. And Trundle isn't necessarily a pick that you want to have as a counter pick. It is a stable jungle blind pick that works in most situations and is not considered a strong counter pick. So I'm really surprised at how this draft has panned out and how the game has panned out as a result. I would have expected a different outcome, expected different something different from both sides. The Sona hasn't really had time to shine, didn't get to scale up. The bot lanes in this game were completely irrelevant, as I have said before the game even started. They want to have time to scale. They didn't get that time to scale because the top side of the teams have just decided the game beforehand.
That is definitely a fair summary. Looks like Invul Lotus are going to be taking red. Looking at the lobby as of, I imagine we will pop back sides. And this does just make, if you are Invul Lotus, on what and try something back to game. Try what you
I think they will have to come up with answers to what they have just been given by K5, because one thing that has stood out was completely different picks from the first game, ditching the Gnar for the Mordekaiser, ditching the Lissandra for the Yone, getting some more plays in to be more volatile themselves. It has just worked out quite perfectly for K5, and that is something that Invul Lotus have to respect this time again.
Could that just be a red side, blue side?
I mean, I would say so, but as I said, counter picks that you would expect, especially Mordekaiser and the Yone, have picked quite early. So Invul Lotus had the chance to counter pick that in return, both roles, and the counter picks still didn't pay off. So it has to be down to execution. Invul Lotus have to figure out a game plan, how to keep these picks down, how to enable their own picks and take over the top side.